Today I'm going to rebuild the turbo on my 7.3. This vehicle is experiencing frequent oil loss. It was happening probably 4 or 5 quarts every time we fueled up the tank. Lots of oil missing, okay? And the turbo is one of the top suspects that you can get to from outside the engine. There's oil on my finger here. It's all over this pipe. There you go. 8mm. $11 millimeter, and then down below they're a little bit hard to see, but let's see if I can focus it for you. There you go. So there's one of those bolts. I usually do 2 on one side, and then so those are on both sides of the spider. It's a little bit more visible, but basically you have one boot going down to the left and one going down to the right. So I accessed it from up there, and then you have this V-band right here, and then we have our wires. So unplug this dealy, and then we can undo this, and then there's a couple pieces that come off. I'll show you that. It shouldn't be necessary to remove the intercooler tubes, but you do need to get them off the spider here. And then just make sure you don't lose anything that pertains to this. You have your ground right here, and then you have your hot right here, and there's this bushing. Don't lose track of that. That's an insulator, so it keeps the ground away from the... Basically there's an element there that has a return. It's got to have this insulator. So now, oh yeah, and then there's this white plug down here, and then so assuming that this clamp is off, which is not. Alright, so I've got this clamp all the way off, and now you can see that that thing moves. The hardest part of this is going to be trying to get this little hose off. Don't even bother. See, the hose is still attached. Just flip it over there. That's fine. So now I'm able to look. I'm trying to show you guys the oil. So you see how there's like a pool up of oil in that boot? That's an indicator that this truck is sucking a lot of oil, because even though there's oil in there splashing around, remember that that's intakes through here. This is suction, so it's sucking oil. You're not going to have a deposit of oil that looks like that in an area where you have the full force of an engine sucking air. So yeah, it's actually not sucking, it's blowing from there, but it's pressurized, but it's still blowing in this direction inside these 2 orange. At this point we have a little bit better visibility on our turbo. We need to take off the air intake there. I recommend that you guys put something up there. I like to use a tarp. A cardboard would do fine, but a tarp holds tools a little bit better because it sinks down when you put stuff on it. It just protects you, because the hood latch and stuff can hurt you when you're getting on and off the truck. It's nice to have something softer to lay on. I guess I should show you guys more. So there's a clamp that goes over the turbo inlet there, right there. And then there's a clamp that goes, this is aftermarket, but there is a clamp, I believe, that goes to the stock intake in this area. And then you have 2 bolts right here. So you have 2 bolts right here and here that holds the intake tube on as well. Don't lose these clamps. They like to get lost and fall, and when you're putting it back together, you'll be annoyed. So I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of a visual here because it's kind of hard to see. Basically, you have, there's a bolt. You see that bolt, right? You have to see them. They're right there. So there's one there, and then there's one up behind it. And then inside here, you have that V-band clamp that goes to the exhaust. And then there's a real doozy back there, right in the middle. You see it back there, all the way? It looks like a little shaft. And let me try to focus this camera on it for you. So there it is back there, and you have to loosen that. And then you have to successfully get that clamp off, which is very tough. So that clamp goes to the up pipes. So there's one right there. These are baffled up pipes, and they go together to a Y collector. And the Y collector mates to the turbo, and it's quite hard to get off. But I'll use an air hammer to knock it loose. By the way, these nuts are very, very hard to find. They're fine thread, SAE thread, and they're a specialty nut. So if you lose them, you're out of luck, buddy.
I'll bring you your eggs and bacon down here when they're done.
Yay, thank you. Ah! Alright, at this point in the process, you need to make sure you remove this shroud little piece right here. This plastic, it's a wire holder, and if you damage it, it's just ugly. Your truck will never be the same, you know. You'll always be sad. You'll probably want to replace the part. It looks crappy, so loosen that, and then you're able to kind of push it up, because the turbo will crash into it. You'll see when the turbo is moving out, the turbo likes to crash. I'll show you the details once I get this out. Alright, so a couple things for you to know. So first is what this all looks like down here. So your pedestal has these 2 O-rings that seal the turbo oil. Like the turbo oil goes in through one of these and it returns through the other one. So you definitely don't want to lose your O-rings. Another thing is a lot of people delete this pedestal. There's a solenoid in here that controls oil flow, and then the oil flow pushes this, and it's just a whole thing. So anyway, I'll probably replace this, but to get your turbo off of this, you have to slide this clip over to the right, and luckily for me, it came off easy. Once you slide it over, basically, if I could show you, it kind of, whoops, well, it's not gonna matter, but this is the clip, what it looks like, and you can see that it clips onto the shaft, so the shaft can't get off. These O-rings should be replaced right here. This clamp right here, the exhaust tends to move a little bit when you loosen it up, so I use the air hammer on the actual clamp and the exhaust. But you can see there's no T-bar. The T-bars do come out of these, and then they can get lost. So you be very careful extracting these out before you remove the V-band clamp. You also can't get the clamp off sometimes without removing the T-bar. The same thing on this back one. This one is a doozy to install and a doozy to remove. So usually you store it down on the Y pipe, out of the way, so they can mate together if possible. Like that maybe. Just so it's out of the way, and then install the T-bar and the nut after they're mated. And you also have to mate to this little lineup dowel right here, which makes it tough because you got to line the lineup dowel and the V-band, and you can't see much. All right, so this device right here is your wastegate actuator that gives the truck the ability to turn down your boost. So the old turbos, they're smaller, they don't have a wastegate actuator, but these bigger, newer ones can boost too much, and you don't want to overboost, so they have a control that basically dumps some of that excess pressure out so you don't overpressure into the engine, because the more pressure you put in, the more oxygen, and so you have to maintain a good oxygen to fuel balance. This is my air. This is the thing that people often will delete, and there's a delete face that you can put on here that doesn't have this flapper, but I usually just take a nickel rod and just weld this. The thing is, this does need to be held in the open position if you want to delete, because it can go like this and flop shut, and then your turbo's non-existent. There we go, little clip. The rod, see, should take a little pressure pushing the rod to get it to line up to this. There's a spring inside there that holds it this way, and then the air makes it go that way. See? That way. Like that. Alright, so we got that. We don't want to lose the clip. We need a 12-point socket for this. 8mm. Yes. So it's 8mm for sure. There you go. So now you can see the internals here. This you can see is your wastegate, so sort of a smaller component. They let the extra air dump out instead of spinning the turbine. Slows down the turbo. So we probably didn't need to take that side apart. We'll do this side. That's all. Okay, here we go. Inlet. Is that the inlet? Yeah, I think so. They say a little radial play is fine, axial play is not, so this should be good. But we know we have the oil leak problem, so we'll proceed. And by the way, you can get to this from with this still on. So yeah, see the inlet, where is it? Doggone boy. Only goes on one way. So you can see, you can still check it even with this still together, and even still on the truck you can check it, okay? But what I'm looking at is, do we have oil right here, right? This is my outlet, so this is where the basically the power comes from. It goes in, it gets sucked here and blows here using this device as an impeller. So you should be seeing, if this thing is leaking, you should see oil in here, which I do see a small amount of residue. Not a lot, but there is oil. Like I can see oil all on here, and that's probably not good. So, and I see it in here as well. Right here, that was the bottom section. Remember, a lot of it blows, and then it'll go down here through gravity. So we're going to remove this now using an impact. Stuff a rag in the other side. See what that does. There we go. So I just put a rag in there so I don't wreck this. And I just pushed it in with the tool, just like you saw. So now, you see this device here is easily replaceable. So if you wanted to go to a upgraded version, you could. We're going to find some damaged parts, I bet you. Maybe a bad seal. Okay. These four. Okay. So that's what that looks like. I meshes to this. Here's a beautiful seal. Look at that. Why are we taking it out? Nobody knows. What's up, baby cakes? And then here we have a little assembly. I'm going to leave this here. Fortunately, I already did this job and I didn't have a socket that would do it, and I bought this set. How do you like that? These are so light they feel like they're made out of plastic. Okay. Try it like this. No? Alright. I have one more idea. After that, I'm out of ideas. It worked! Yay! Alright. Got him! Oh, there's going to be some grinding now. I've damaged it. So there you go. So, wow! Whoops! Alright. Appears we have a protective covering. So, everybody getting this? You guys paying attention, class? These mating surfaces did need to be cleaned up properly to be reinstalled afterwards. There's a little external ring here, right where I'm removing that, and this is actually an oil seal. So when you insert this into the housing, it kind of seals that shaft area because there's oil along that shaft where it's spinning. brass, yeah? I like it to be wet. I'm cleaning all the carbon off this. I don't know why, but it just seems like it should be clean. Hey. And then it goes in here. Thusly. Uh-oh. That piece came right out. And then this piece came right out. See? It kind of clips in because I'll show you guys. There's a piece that looks like this, okay? And it kind of puts outside pressure. So it goes into a hole and then clicks, and that's when you know you're in place. So that was what happened there. I'm not for sure what this piece actually does here. I really don't know what any of these pieces do, but I just know they need to go in there super clean. So there we go. And then we have another new brass, but I'm going to put a little trans fluid just because I have it. And then I have my brass yet again, because there's one on each side. And then they keep that lined up real perfect. So now it's got the most minute amount of shaft play. It's basically the same as before, to be honest. Alright, so this might stand up. No. Okay. So now I want this ultra clean. There's going to be a seal on here. This piece has to have a clip on it here. So I'll install that clip. I know it's quite small, you guys. I know it's hard to see. So, but I'll just show you, because it's very hard to do close-up shots. It's a high-level videography. So this clip is going to go into that slot on the side of this. There we go. That went on easy. This piece was one, see? And the new kit comes with two components, but they match up to the same height this way. They just go together a little bit different. So it doesn't have a slot. See? No slot. So it's the same height. So we're going to go with it. Okay, I forgot to show you guys. That's all in there. This is your proper orientation. So your Y pipe goes up into here. And remember that the bolts are oriented front to back when you remove it. We'll place this, the ramp on the Rotomaster kit points towards the flat here, which on the opposite side indicates the oiler, the oiler is located on top of this large area right here. So this is the oiler hole, right? Just like that. So that's the correct orientation. It seems important to me. When the other one came off, right? This one came off. it had the same orientation, which is that the channel pointed towards the bottom, and when you looked at it this way, that wide open area was over this spot, which was a hole right there. This seal was actually the wrong size from the rebuild kit, so I actually had to take the turbo apart and put the old seal back into the turbo, but there was nothing wrong with that seal, so I just used it and it was fine. So then this piece, ooh, this orientation is going to be challenging. Which way does it go? Not that way. Not that way. Oh, look, it only goes on one way, buddy. Yeah, the hole pattern's not square. Huh. Good to know, huh? You have to get this to go onto that C-clip. There we go. Put 4 bolts. I don't even know what 4 bolts they intended me to replace. So I'm just replacing the 4 innermost ones. They probably just assume like some of them are going to become so rusty. Only goes on one way. Ta-da! Which I believe this has a seal right here. Yeah. Doesn't come in the kit, so maybe I got the wrong kit. We'll send it. Should I clean out all the oil? I think so. Alright, we'll put a rag here. We'll hold it with a tool. And then we'll take an impact. Okay. Reinstall the wastegate actuator. There we go, rebuilt, buddy. It's hard to show you while I'm working, but when I first settle this in here, first thing I do is I keep a watch on the turbo pedestal down here, make sure, because those 2 O-rings, you know, they're on top. I had to clean that up. And I put new O-rings, and then when I put the turbo, I had to double check, make sure the O-rings didn't get knocked out of the hole. And then I still haven't hooked up my EBPV control yet. Doesn't really need to, well, it does need to be attached because it's there and I didn't weld it, so it's down there. Anyways, that arm needs to be connected still down below, but I got my back clamp on. If you can see, there we go. That clamp is on, and from over here on the side, you can kind of see, if you lean your head down in this area, you'll be able to see that clamp, whether the Y is lined up with it. So now I've obviously got my turbo bolts started here, and I don't want to tighten my turbo bolts until the clamp back there is tight. That's the secret. And then you tighten the turbo bolts. Alright, since I decided to keep my EBPV pedestal, I had to hook up my little shaft, and then to get the shaft on, I needed the turbo to be loose. So anyways, loosened up that turbo and the V-band in the back, and then retightened it, and now I need that rearmost exhaust. Let's see, focus right back there. I need to connect that. And that clamp likes to fall, so it fell down. We're actually okay to put these back on. There. Alright, exhaust is mounted, so now it's time to install the spider, which is that thing. Before you install the spider, it helps if you're going to plug in the EBPV plug, you can plug it now, and then make sure you have your boots down here with both clamps on each, and then know what clamps are tight already and what ones are loose. Okay, so now I'm just going to place it down there. Don't forget about this clamp. It needs to go on first. Alright, I don't know if I said this. Make sure you, when you put the spider in, you tighten this clamp first. And then usually these other two clamps are oriented so you can get from up here. And then these two, a little bit tougher to get to, but right through this crevice here. You see them down there? So that's it. And then obviously make sure these clamps are present because it's a little bit easier. We're making sure the red line is hooked up to the wastegate actuator, and the red supply, which is a little boot looking thing, goes to here, which is at the intake. And then obviously we have our bolt here, don't strip it, and then that there, and then we have two plugs, this one and this one. So we'll put the air intake components on. Okay, so don't forget the green hose goes right there, and don't forget to tighten up your clamp down at the bottom and here, and then on the stock unit there will be one there as well. It's a little bit easier to get to these two bolts. There's one above, one below. If the spider's not in yet, but I forgot, so you can still get to them, you just need to use a combination wrench. That's how you rebuild the turbo, so hopefully this all works out on my end. Now you know what all the components are, where they're located, and what tools you need. And it's not rocket science, it's not that hard of a job. Only thing I will tell you is, when you get the turbo apart, there comes a point inside there where you need a thin wall set of deep sockets. I got mine at Napa, Carlisle brand, but a normal deep 8mm socket will not work. A 3/8 socket will be too thick, and a 1/4 inch drive socket will be too short. So you need a deep 3/8 thin wall socket with 12 point. So that's the only thing. It's an odd tool that you won't likely have around unless you're actually a mechanic. But yeah, it's not a rocket science type of job. Just getting the turbo back in requires a little finesse. You have to be careful not to break your trim. And then if you have, like, instead of me, I have an Excursion, but if you have like a normal truck, then a lot of them will have a glow plug module that's just a solenoid instead of a computerized. And then right there you have exposed hot. So as you're putting the turbo in, if you don't have your battery grounds disconnected, your turbo will arc and it'll spark and hit those hots and stuff, and you don't want to do that, so just disconnect your ground before you start the process, and that'll protect you from that. And yeah, good luck. Have a good day.